Mr. Gill, we are close to the end of the World Challenge season. We're here at Sonoma, some pretty awesome GT racing. There's obviously Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca still on the calendar. Give me your thoughts on the year in general, though. I've been impressed. We just saw an amazing first GT race, but what have you seen about your series this year that make you feel like you're getting to the place you want to be growth-wise?
Well, I think you said the key words. We're pleased with the growth that we've seen. With the exception of one class out of 6, we've seen consistent growth across the board. So very pleased with that. Again, when you do our line of work, you always say, what could you do better? So when we come in, we appreciate the growth. We saw good growth in Sprint X. We saw today the champions being interviewed as we were finishing up this race. They saw the excitement of it. We see the growth there. And on the same token, it's important to note, we're a sprint racing series. That's what we're known for. That's what we'll continue to do. So we're there, but at the same token, as we say about it being 17, we're finishing the year with something very unique when we go into the California 8-hour with our friends at the SRO. So here we can go as a sprint series champions being crowned this weekend, and now we look forward to saying, now how do we integrate and do an 8-hour race, and look forward to continuing that as an anchor for us for 2018.
I was a fairly vocal opponent of the Sprint X concept.
Yeah.
I think the first year of it left a lot to be desired. I now need to eat those words, crow, and many other things, having seen what it's become this year. My own apologies aside, tell me about what you've seen in terms of it meeting expectations or even exceeding, because it has become a pretty big feature portion of what you have to offer.
Well, you're right about that, but I think rather than rest on our laurels, because as you say, our freshman year or our beta year was, I have to just thank the people who bore with us, because when you're looking at 8-car grids, and we finally had a 27-car grid at the end of the year, but that's because we invited all our family members to race with us. So when you look at what we saw this year with 30-plus car grids, and I think what our champions noticed this year was racing with world-class drivers and competing against them. That got them excited, and I think it added something for the fans. When we look at it, what we're really seeing is normally I think of America as the forefront of most trends. In this situation, we had something started in Europe, started in Asia, and the U.S. was actually slow to adopt. And I think we're still in that area where we're picking up aspects of an extended sprint race series, but we're not there yet. So I think 2018 will be a continued growth in it. It speaks to what was good. And what the whole goal, remember when this idea was done, was the cost of sports car racing. That was the goal behind it. So, as a series, our kind of watchword behind obviously taking care of business and making sure it's running right is to make sure that we're bringing more people into global sports car racing. That's why we work with the series that we do and the clubs that we do. We want more people sports car racing. By having an extended sprint race series, you give the opportunity to share a ride, and that can reduce costs. So that was always the goal behind it, not really with us. We didn't look at it that way as much as we saw as we started dealing with the SRO and others. We realized that's what works for them, and we're starting to see the same thing here. So I think for the future, we're still going to keep Sprint and Sprint X. We'll keep a fairly even balance in GT that way, and we're looking at the same way we look at GT4. There is still an interest in being at a steady sprint, and really only a little bit Sprint X. I think, let's come back next year and have this conversation again and see if GT4 then has exploded into Sprint X or whether they'll stay with Sprint. My gut is they'll be the next ones coming to the party and wanting to see Sprint X. But for now, GT is what's done well with it.
Common theme you and I have had discussion-wise over the past couple of years has been World Challenge, 25-year plus history, ups and downs, strong rebound. Seems like the goal's been becoming a singular entity more than, hey, we're an add-on to someone else's schedule everywhere we go. You now have a bunch of standalone dates, growth there, your own Sprint X property. Is this mission to be your own force moving where you want it to, or are you hitting those marks?
Well, we surveyed our paddock, and that's an excellent question, because when you look at the fact that IndyCar was such an excellent partner for us, they helped produce half of our television shows. We're here at an IndyCar weekend. So the first thought is, why would you want to move away from something that brings a good crowd, great formula racing, and a great partnership with the Indy organization? That said, our team said, wow, we like being the headliner, we like the exposure for that, but we don't want to lose IndyCar. We don't want to lose a high-profile partner. So I think in the 2018 schedule, you'll see us continuing to build on our strengths at headliner events. Those are certainly very successful for us, but we're not going to forget the roots. Being here on IndyCar weekends and an IndyCar partnership, still very important to us, and we'll continue that as a good example, and I'm giving you early information, but Long Beach will be back on our calendar again. We look at that as absolutely important, and that's because of the success of Long Beach as a venue and being there on an IndyCar weekend.
I've heard fun things about next year's calendar. I won't try and put that stuff out before you guys will, but there's been a date or two, a track or two where I've said, wow, if that happens, that would be awesome. I haven't been there in a little while. I can't wait. When do you think fans might hear about that schedule? And could it have a little bit more diversity than this year's?
Well, right on both counts. And we have a real frustrating point. We held off. We wanted to announce our schedule on the Labor Day weekend, but we had some contracts that were still outstanding at said same interesting venues. Now we're in the same boat again. We have some great dates, good opportunities, and with traditional partners. But I don't want to put those on the schedule if, in fact, these other dates come up, because the teams and drivers and fans have said, boy, if you could come here. So we're at that moment, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to announce that soon. But on Sunday night, when we announce the schedule, unfortunately, we're going to have a couple of TBAs in there. I guess we're trying to keep people paying attention in the off season.